Stop the music. Turn it off. Turn it off. Hang on. This is Carl King, your host, and I've got something important to say. We have a friend of the Carl King podcast that needs our help. Some of you might have heard that drummer PatMcDonald suffered a stroke recently. And this is terrible news because he's an incredible drummer and one of the biggest musical inspirations of my life. Some may know he played on the Sir Millard Mulch song Broccoli and several other songs on my first Sir Millard Mulch CD. Anyway, Pat's wife is running a GoFundMe to help cover his emergency medical bills and his physical therapy. It sounds like it's going to be a long road, but they say that they are hopeful. I've created a bit.ly link, and I'm putting it in the description and or the show notes, but I will also read it here for you. The URL is bit.ly/PatDrums. And remember, any amount will help. So head over to that GoFundMe and help Pat McDonald get through his recovery, because we need him to get behind those drums again. And soon. bit.ly/PatDrums. Now, let's begin to get started. Quick shout out to my music endorsements: Vienna Symphonic Library, Fractal Audio, Ernie Ball Strings, Tune Track, and Millennia Media. Here's what's coming up in this episode. We've got a music-focused show this week. That's right, I figure I've done enough mumbling, incoherent film reviews for now, so we're going to change gears just a little bit. And I know a lot of you are music people, so hey, this is for you, because my show is your show. But not really, I'm just saying that because it makes me appear to be a good person. So, with music in mind, Carl King is going to answer 3 listener questions about music. And that's going to be a ton of musical fun. Then, I'm going to talk about some new content I've uploaded to YouTube. Can't wait to hear what that's all about, can you? Next, I will announce a new live streaming music-related show I plan to do on Twitch. After that, I'll discuss the breaking news that a famous metal band from the 90s is getting back together, and they're even going on tour, but with a fresh twist, and it's kinda blowing my mind. Then, I'll announce the results of last week's Word Game Creativity Challenge, and of course, I'll give you all a brand new creative assignment. To wrap things up, I'll tell you about a musician. It sounds like we're ending the episode, but no, at the end of the episode, I'm going to tell you about a musician I've come across on YouTube. He's sharing some intriguing interpretations of music that all of us in the Carl King musical universe are going to appreciate. Is that something you think you would enjoy? I think you will. Nod your head. Are you nodding it? Yes, Carl King, I will enjoy it. Okay, good. By the way, this podcast is now available on many, many platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, and I think some others. Just look it up on whatever. So be sure to subscribe on whatever platform or player you prefer with plenty of plosives, and write me a nice little review while you're at it. Because, you're a very good friend of Carl King. And that's what very good friends of Carl King do. Allow me to give you a quick update on Carl King, the human. Because without me, I wouldn't exist. So here I am in Southern California, the imaginary city called Los Angeles. And it's currently and presently 93 degrees F. It's the only 93 that you will ever get that is still considered an F. I'm wearing my red gym shorts and comfortable gray t-shirt my wife bought me. That guy I hired to paint my studio, well, guess what? He rescheduled again. So we're now looking at August 9th. Of 2023, perhaps. No, that's not true. Oh, actually, he just rescheduled for, let's see, what does it say here? Oh, this Friday. Oh, that's good news. Can't wait to smell those paint fumes in here. Implosive Central. In other news, remember how I had itchy Carl King hands last week? It turned into an entirely itchy Carl King body. Yeah, well, in the middle of the night, I broke out in hives due to my previous COVID infection. As I said before, I thought it was our cats, but the doctor said, no, probably the virus. He actually said this to me. He's like, nope, Dr. Google says it's the virus. And he turned the computer monitor over see, that's what it is. When I had those hives, I wanted to just jump out of my skin. Anybody here ever felt that? Because it is unbearable. So the next morning I went out and got some pharmaceuticals, and the large red swollen welts have subsided, vanished, for now anyway. But they could return at any moment, I suppose. So if you happen to hear Carl King type of screams and itching sounds, perhaps Carl King blood spraying across the room, you'll know exactly what is happening. Don't make me upload photos because I have some good ones. So here's to hoping it really is the post-COVID immune reaction like Dr. Google says, and that it's not the cats or some other animal we live with. Let's see, I just returned from the desert where it was 115 degrees F. Now, that sure was something. We took a little trip out there for the weekend. And we noticed that no one out there wants to go outside, so there's barely any traffic. Speaking of desolate places, you might have seen there's a guy named Elon Musk who wants to colonize Mars. I saw a funny clip of Neil deGrasse Tyson responding to that idea. And he said basically, we already have an Antarctica here, and no one wants to move to it. Because Mars and Antarctica actually have similar temperatures, like minus 70 or 80 degrees F. I just love giving everything an F. Yeah, that's right. Carl King is the one giving out Fs now, instead of getting Fs. Anyway, temperatures outside a narrow, comfortable range kind of discourage the exploration of space and the building of hotels on Mars, I think. Maybe Elon can first colonize Antarctica and explore those lost civilizations beyond. All that matters is I am happy to be back in my studio next to this scorching window and freezing AC. Now let's dig into those listener questions. And all three of the questions I received this week happen to be about music. Now, what are the odds of that? Question number 1. This is from someone named Mordred Icebreath. Sounds like you might be a dragon. Are you actually a dragon? Because that would be pretty crazy. Mordred Icebreath asks, can you help me with my music practice routine? I want to get better at guitar. Thank you. Mordred, here's what I recommend. And this is what I do myself when I'm actually in guitar or bass mode. So first of all, try to practice every day for some amount of time, even if it's just 15 minutes. But don't practice for more than about 45 minutes in one sitting. Take a break, stand up, walk around, stretch, whatever, because it can be bad for your body to play an instrument for long periods of time without a break. I know Steve Vai talked about practicing for 12 or 15 hours a day when he was a kid, but I don't know that his body at this point would hold up playing for that many hours a day. Also, taking a break will just relax your brain a little bit. Then, if you want to do another practice set, do another 45 minutes. But as I said, if you can't even do a single 45-minute chunk, just do 15 minutes a day, or even 10 minutes a day. I feel like daily practice that adds up to 3 hours in a week can be better than 3 hours of practice in the same session just once a week and then not playing for 6 days. Second, start by doing something simple that just gets you warmed up. like some easy strumming of chords in time, something comfortable, and just do that for about 5 minutes. And then third, spend the bulk of your focus on things you can't quite do perfectly, to where it's a challenge. You can think of it like lifting weights and trying to build muscle. Because honestly, you are building muscle when you practice guitar. Not that building the muscle you don't want gigantic finger muscles. That would be counterproductive. The point is, you want to be pushing your limits just enough. So don't just noodle playing things you can already play for 15 minutes and call it practicing. That's just way too easy to do. Don't play scales you already know. Don't play songs you already know. Don't play drum fills you already know. Because if you do that, you won't grow. Try to focus on learning new material, learn a new technique, and focus. Don't let your mind wander all over the place. It's very much like meditating. You don't want to goof around. Fourth, you can end your practice session with just another 5 minutes of something you are comfortable playing, just for fun. And try to make this all like a little daily routine. And let me know how that structure works for you, because that's pretty much what I do myself when I'm actually in guitar or bass mode. I definitely see big improvements in my own playing, and I think you will too. Question number 2 comes from Gloom Thornheart. That could be the name of a dragon slayer. Or like a dual class fighter magic user. I think I'm sensing sort of a medieval fantasy story emerging here. Anyway, Gloom Thornheart asks, I hear some people say I should learn to read music, but it feels like a waste of time. What do you think? Gloom, I say yes. Learn to read music. And I mean real notation, not just tabs. And here's why. First, notation will help you understand music in a new way. Because some ideas are so much easier to understand and share with other people if they're just written down. And that's why it's been done for centuries. Imagine if you had to go through life without being able to read English, or whatever your native language is. You'd literally be illiterate. You can imagine how much that would limit you every day. You wouldn't have been able to submit this question. And if you think about it this way, if music is something that's so important to you, if you really take being a musician so seriously, like musicians will say, music is the most important thing in my life, well, then you want to increase your chances of success in any way you can. You want every opportunity and every tool available to you. Reading and writing are basic communication skills in life and in music. So definitely go for it. I want to recommend this app for your phone or device or computer thing called Sight Reading Factory. It'll teach you to read and practice reading on any possible instrument you can think of. So seriously, install it on your phone, and when you're on the toilet making a poop, sit there and practice your reading. You can find out about it at sightreadingfactory.com/poop. No, don't use /poop. I honestly don't know what will happen if you do that. Let's just not do that, okay? sightreadingfactory.com. Oof, that was a close one. I'll finish up by saying how much I regret not investing more time in reading and writing notation through all my years of playing guitar and bass, because it's become such a useful skill to me. For instance, if I can play through a piece of music when recording without needing to memorize it, it makes my life so much easier. And even just memorizing my own musical parts, having notation in front of me, speeds up the process rather than digging around through MIDI and rewinding and listening to parts over and over. So the sooner you can become notationally literate, the better. Seriously. Question number 3 from Szipdop Gnikek. Wow. Okay, I don't know if we now have a goblin writing in, or are you one of those weird kids from Venice, Florida that makes up their own names? Let's see, does it spell something backwards? Quecking pod Piz. No. Okay, so I don't know what's going on there. His or her goblin question is, how do I find my own musical style? Well, Sazip-Dop, here's what I have to say. I'm surprised you even have a hard time coming up with your own style because you've come up with your own very strange name. But you'd be surprised at how easy it is to come up with your own musical style. First of all, a style is really just two things. You've got a set of limitations, and then you've got a set of repeated elements. You've got things you never do, and then things you do all the time. For instance, AC/DC has an identifiable style, I would say. And their limitations are, well, you might say their entire musical catalog is limitations, but no, I'm just joking. Their music is always guitar, bass, drums, and vocals. And it's always classic rock riffs in 4/4 time at this steady tempo. It's got a verse, a chorus, a bridge, an Angus Young guitar solo, and this screechy guy that sounds like an old lady. So if they were to add like Moog synthesizer solos, it would no longer be AC/DC, and their audience would be like, I don't understand what's happening right now. This isn't what was supposed to happen. You know, they'd be moving their heads in that AC/DC, AC/DC chant that they all do over every song. Do they not do that? I'm just assuming that's what is supposed to be done over all their songs. Or you take a band like Bad Religion, and there's this drum beat that almost every Bad Religion song has. And they probably have 100 songs with the same exact drum beat, and you know, you could set up without the other instruments, have the drummer play that beat, and you'd never be able to tell all their songs apart. But it works. It's their thing. So the other thing is, ask yourself specifically what you like. Like, do you like the Lydian mode? Then just use it all the time and make it your thing. Like Steve Vai has kind of made it his thing. I mean, he does a lot of different things now, but definitely I associate the Lydian mode with Steve Vai. So just find some very specific thing you like, and it can really be anything. For instance, I really like major chords and never really liked minor chords. So I just wrote a bunch of albums using almost entirely major chords, and I think it gave my music a distinct sound. So make yourself a list. Find like 3 or 5 or 10 things in music that you really like, and pick out 1 or 2 of them and see what would happen if you made them a thing you always do. But be careful though, because Lars Ulrich did that, and a guy named Josh Steffen made an entire YouTube playlist of playing covers of songs that have been what he calls Larsified. And the results are hilarious with the face making and everything. But he's definitely figured out what the Lars Ulrich thing is. So go and look him up on YouTube, and I'll also add a link in the show notes if that's okay with you. Thanks, Sazip-Dop. Grinnick-Keck. Keep being a goblin. All right, listeners, keep those questions coming. Send anything you've got to ask@carlkingdom.com. Today's episode is sponsored by... Oh, did you think I was just about to start doing an ad? Well, sort of. It's sponsored by Carl King and his Patreon patrons. So if you want to help support this podcast, you are always welcome to head over to Patreon. I just want to take a moment to let you know what my $5 and up patron members will get. There's this sticky post, a sort of index at the top of the members only section that has links to the following. 8, that's EIGHT, or 8 in parentheses, music albums from across my discography of Sir Millard Mulch, Dr. Zoltan, and Carl King, all in high-resolution WAV format. There's also 1 audiobook, and there's 1 PDF book. Actually, There might be 2 by the time this podcast comes out. You never know. But I uploaded one of my books called We Are the Pilots of Giant Robots. And that's a little book I made in 2009. And you can't get it anywhere else. It's on Patreon only. There's also 3 pretty cool video music lessons that are exclusive to Patreon patrons. They are not music video lessons. They're not how to make a 80s hair metal power ballad music video. They are music lessons that are in a video format. And in them, I play my electrical bass instrument and my electrical guitar instrument using an analog plectrum device thing in those videos. And I hope to make more of those soon. Speaking of Patreon, we have a bit of a situation over there, folks. Anyway, I'm going to tell you about it right now. It seems that this past week, my only $50 patron, Hank Howard III, has been usurped from his throne. It's true. While he's still supporting at the $50 Archmage level, my old friend, from the bus, when we rode the bus to summer school together, Chewbode has raised the stakes. That's right. Chewbode, the handler of humongous hairy hot dogs, all covered in hickeys and herpes, has outbid Hank Howard III by pledging $50 and 1 penny. Can you believe that? Can you believe he did that? I did not see that coming. And it is safe to say that no one did. No one could have foreseen the use of Chewbode flying a hot dog into the plosive central. Now, I'm not issuing a challenge here. I'm not going to turn my artistic integrity into an auction, okay? Not at all. Can you imagine the scandal that would cause across social media? I would never do something like that because, it's against my principles. And to be honest, there wouldn't be any benefit for me financially if you two started raising your pledges. I mean, except for the fact that I'd get more money, but why does that matter? So guys, please, take it easy. You don't need to prove who cares more about my creative projects and, having my friendship. Now it's time to talk about Carl King's recent YouTube releases. If you have a YouTube account, head over to youtube.com/CarlKingdom and take a look at what's going on over there. Because over the past week, I've uploaded hours of content going all the way back to the Dr. Zoltan days. I've got 5 new videos on there, and let me tell you what they are. There's the Dr. Zoltan Declaration of War on Fun live with Marco Miniman from 2008. And that was the full-length live show I did with Marco in Hollywood at the Steve Allen Theater's Tomorrow Show, hosted by, the creator of Metalocalypse, Mr. Brendan Small himself. At that show, I wrote up this huge speech and had Marco play drums to it. And it was a pretty wild performance art show. Second, I have posted Dr. Zoltan's Understanding Music Through Geometry from 2007. And this is a wacky video that Terry Bozzio was pretty into back in the day. And I play guitar, bass, and drums, and I wear a wig, and I explain an unusual way of understanding odd tuplets. I don't really think of tuplets that way, but it was a way to show them visually with spinning geometrical shapes. I also dug up and posted this Brendan Small interview from 2011. And that was from the first time I interviewed Brendan at his home studio. And I think I asked a heck of a lot of good questions, mostly focused on psychology, trying to figure that guy out. That was actually recorded for my So You're a Creative Genius Now What podcast, but I've finally made it available on YouTube, so go and listen to that. And there's this Carl King interview from something called the Kinda Geeky podcast in 2018. This was from back when I was raising funds for my animated pilot, The Oracle of Outer Space. This dude named Keith had me down to Culver City to talk all about making the show. So go listen to that if you want to hear what the heck I was thinking at the time. And last, this is a very short little video I posted. It's a Guitar Tricks 6-second animated commercial with voiceover or voice acting by me and Dan Foster. And that one was actually animated entirely by me in a sort of visual style I was developing at the time. And I think it came out pretty cool. It reminds me that I should probably do more actual animation myself. But it just takes me so long, and there are only so many things I can do at one time. We have a strict policy here at the Carl King podcast. I don't talk about current events because I guess I don't care about the world or the present time. But I'm going to break that policy only this once, and it's for a damn good reason. Here it is. Did everyone hear that Pantera is going on tour again? How is that even possible? You know what? I'm excited because here's what I'm told the tour is going to consist of. It's just going to be the 2 remaining living members. Can you believe that? Just a duo. Well, how could that work, you wonder? I wondered the same thing, and it's going to work like this. Rex Brown, the bassist, is going to wear his dapper fedora and vest and sit on a wooden stool and play bass lines, while Phil Anselmo tells angry macho stories and does, improv beat poetry. And yeah, I'm surprised they're actually going through with this. Says here they've agreed to make each show entirely spontaneous, created in, quote, the magic of the moment, unquote. There's really not going to be a single previous Pantera song. No Mouth for War or Walk or 5 Minutes Alone. They intend to live totally in the now, which is going to be crazy. I don't know about you, but I've ordered my VIP tickets, and I plan to follow them on the road in an RV, Grateful Dead style. My wife and I have decided to put the house up for sale, and... Oh, wait a second. Hang on. No. Oh, that isn't right? No? No, I was reading this press release wrong. Ah, crap. And now it's time to announce my new streaming Twitch show. Or at least my intention to do one. Because why can't you announce an intention instead of actually just doing something? Well, I haven't worked out all the details yet, but I'm hoping to start broadcasting a weekly show on Twitch called The Complicated Music Hour. This is something I did years ago with my friend Ian Koss on WFIT out of Florida. And I only did it once, but I listened back to it the other day and I thought, man, I need to bring this back. So it's called The Complicated Music Hour, but it will definitely be longer than an hour because, it's complicated. I figure I'll do at least one episode to test out the concept. So what the heck is it going to be? Well, Carl King will be a sort of VJ, a video jockey, and you can join me in exploring and watching a bunch of YouTube videos, made by insane musicians, of course, of what I consider to be complicated music. An example might be some wild modern classical piano piece, maybe some Yu Wang, or a fusion drum solo. Maybe we'll get some YouTube videos of Vinnie Colaiuta or something. Or an orchestral metal nightmare. Maybe we'll find some videos of Lala Larson. The kind of thing that I appreciate, where it sounds like a band of virtuosos is falling down the stairs. And we'll see if I can try to do it at a set time each week. But in the meantime, head over to twitch.tv/Carl King and follow me there to get notified when I actually go live. And by the way, the show won't be archived due to copyright complications, so you can only see it when it's actually streaming. And it's going to be a heck of a complicated thing, so I hope to see you there. Here's a brand new segment Carl King is trying out this week. I want to tell you about bands I like that no one else likes. Now, of course, someone aside from me has to like these bands, right? There's always someone that likes any band. But I'm referring to bands that if I went to see them live, no one I know would ever go with me. And this week's selection is Skillet. Skillet are what you'd call a Christian nu metal band. And I think the first time I heard of them was in a military recruitment ad in the movie theater. And they have this song called Hero. And that video made me cringe so bad the first time I saw it. Because it's full of dudes in police and firefighter and army costumes, while the band makes a big dramatic deal out of playing in the rain. Have any of you seen that show on HBO called Righteous Gemstones? If not, it's a parody of a family of evangelists who run a mega church. And it stars John Goodman as the head of the family and his kids who are totally unqualified to take over for him. For instance, one of his sons has formed a cult of hyper-masculine Jesus bros that live in the backyard and do nothing but lift weights and read the Bible. And Skillet are exactly like that. Their visuals are like an over-the-top parody. There's constant flames shooting into the air. The two guitarists stand on platforms that go way up and down in the air for some reason on the sides of the stage. And the whole band's appearance in general is, I don't know, how would you describe it? Like mega glamorous. They look like they belong in one of the Matrix movies. Lots of vinyl and leather and hairspray and accessories. The lead vocalist and kind of bassist is this steroid-looking dude named John Cooper. And he's decked out in sleeve tattoos and gelled hair and a big perfectly groomed hipster beard and this thick black eyeliner. And they've got this female drummer named Jen Ledger who plays with this outrageous intensity. Like live, she swings her arms way above her head, and it's hard to believe she can stay with the click or whatever is happening there. So it makes me wonder, like, are those drums actually happening? But it really looks like they are. And she also sings harmony vocals in counterpoint with the other dude. So it's a total spectacle. When I watch their videos, I think, is this really happening? Who thought this up? But I actually got hooked on their music when I heard their song Awake and Alive on a Christian radio station. I don't know why, but one night I turned on a Christian radio station in my car and that came on and I was like, what is this? This is striking. So I had to look them up. Their sound is very much along the lines of Evanescence, which is another band I like. And I would even say, and my wife is probably going to kill me, but it's not far from being similar to something like Nightwish. You know, because this sort of genre of band have these dark minor key chord progressions and heavy overdubbed guitar production and these male-female harmonies, or at least female vocals. And Skillet's lyrics are presented as these earnest, hardcore Christian messages of how they feel persecuted for their beliefs, how Jesus makes them feel invincible, and, you know, knowing what they believe inside. Throughout their live shows, the bassist will often entirely stop playing his bass to accommodate his stage moves, which include putting his hand on his heart or holding his arms out in a crucified pose at the audience to try to get them all to cheer. And it's possible either some or all of his bass parts are pre-recorded, along with the other backing tracks, although it's kind of hard to tell in that case. Now, if their level of putting on a show was lower, like if they just seemed like they were trying to be Skillet, versus actually exploding with Skilletness, I would hate it, but watching Skillet is very much like watching Gwar. So at the same time that I laugh uncontrollably at the absurdity of the showmanship, I also really enjoy the music. And people think I'm joking, but the music has great hooks and cool harmonies and solid nu metal production. Honestly, it makes me feel good, and I don't want to deny that, as silly as it is. So whether you enjoy their music or not, I hope you can see it's expertly crafted, because Skillet have done what they have set out to do, and they do it well. And I don't know if there's a band that does Skillet better than Skillet. So if you want to try to enjoy Skillet, along with Carl King, take a look at my 3 favorite music videos by them. You can just look them up on YouTube. They are Hero, Awaken Alive, and Monster. And if you want to get some extra credit, watch some of their live shows, especially the one they did at Pink Pop Festival in 2016. So do you have a band that only you like? Let me know. Send me an email, show@carlkingdom.com. Shifting gears a little bit away from music, or a lot away from music, it's time to share the results of last week's word game. If you were listening last week, the word I assigned was a 5-letter word, S.T.A.R.T, and I demanded that the listeners make up phrases using the acronym S.T.A.R.T. And here are some of the best submissions I received. Level Nivello sent me a few. Remember that guy? So here are his submissions. Sloppy titties are really terrific. Now see, this is why this show needs an explicit label. I was not prepared for that, and I don't think you were either. The next one is sewage turds anus rectum toilet. Come on now, that's not a complete sentence, so that one is completely disqualified. Still tugging a raw todger. Okay, that's a sentence fragment and doesn't explain who is still doing the tugging. And listeners, don't worry, I've been assured that a todger is a type of insect. Another one is syllables traded among reasonable talkers. I like that idea, trading syllables. Syntactical tactics and responsible technology. Well, that sounds like a company name. Maybe that's the name of the company that is behind my studio that burst into flames a couple of hours ago. Had to evacuate the place. Well, that's another story. And the last one is someone teach Andrew rodeo terminology. That is a solid sentence, and I couldn't agree with it more. Someone should teach Andrew rodeo terminology, because he's calling things all the wrong things. Okay, we've got some submissions from Spezix. Here they are. There's 3 of them. Number 1, stars telling ancient religious tales. I think Spezix is referring to astrology here. Here's another one. Seriously, try a relaxed t-shirt. Well, seriously, I'm not going to try a relaxed t-shirts. I like my t-shirts kind of tight, but I'm weird. But still, that's a really good sentence, Spezix. And third, simple. The actor's really trying. I like that as sort of a response to someone asking, how is that actor doing such a good job? Simple. The actor's really trying. He's putting in a good effort. And last, here are my submissions to the game, which I hope you all enjoy. Sadly, the artist retired tragically. As in, broke. Squeeze taint after releasing tongue. Those are maybe the instructions on some sort of medication. Samantha's teeth are right there, in case you wanted to know where they are. Sheesh, this armchair's really tasty. Probably said in a motel of some sort. Sit tall and rub throat. Those are possibly more instructions on maybe a sort of medication. It's like step 5 in a series. Here's another one. Stop talking. All right, resume talking. That's pretty obvious. Here we go with another one. Stuart's tonsils are ready, Tanya. Can you imagine maybe a dental assistant saying that really loudly to another dental assistant? And finally, here's the last. Switch those around right there. Well, I had fun with this week's assignment, and thank you to Level Nivello and Spezix for their submissions. Are you ready for this week's creative assignment? Who wants to be creative with Carl King? Other than Carl King. Here we go. I was driving the other day, and I saw a woman with the bumper sticker that said, "My son was in the Air Force." It occurred to me that's something you'd never go up to someone and say out of context. Yet it's perfectly acceptable to write it on the back of your car. Like you'd never go into a restaurant and yell that at the waiter, or whisper it to someone as you walk past them on the street. So this week, I challenge you to come up with a nonsensical bumper sticker. I'm a big fan of non sequiturs. I think we need more of those in the world. I have this hat in my garage that simply says stomach. It's a black hat, all white letters, just the word stomach. Now, I don't know where it came from, but who the hell puts that word on a hat? I think it's genius. Years ago, I made Sir Millard Mulch bumper stickers that said, "Sir Millard Mulch hates my hovercraft." Now, it's not the greatest bumper sticker ever, but it's good old Douglas Adams' Beware of the Leopard type stuff. Has anyone read Douglas Adams? Any of you listening? Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Oh boy, I hope so. So for this week, what is the most absurd bumper sticker idea you can imagine? Come up with 3 or 5 of them, because those are prime numbers. Just have a good time, go for it, and don't worry about being judged. We're just making up silly things here. Send me your submissions to the following email address: show@carlkingdom.com. Let's move on to our segment called Musical Artist of the Week. I want to wrap up this episode by telling you about a guy on YouTube who goes by the name Hermit The Fraud. Does anyone know who this guy is? Because he's pretty mysterious. He tags his location as being Hamilton. So I looked that up and discovered it's actually Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Now, what got my attention is that he does these insightful covers of Faith No More and Mr. Bungle on acoustic guitar. So sometimes it's just solo acoustic guitar and vocals, and sometimes it's a bunch of overdubs of himself on the screen. The songs he's done seem to be in 2 playlists. He's got Faith No More, Angel Dust, and Mr. Bungle's California. And I realized he's done the entire Faith No More Angel Dust album, plus bonus tracks, and all of Mr. Bungle's California. And I've only seen a few so far, but they're pretty amazing. Now, what excites me about all of this is he tries to include every detail of the melodies, chords, and overdubs. All of those dissonant lines clashing, but it's in such a stark, clear way you can't hear in the original recording. It's like the fresh context helps make it more transparent. And this is like what Mike Keneally did with the Steve Vai piano reductions years ago, because this is almost entirely acoustic guitar vocals and some minimal percussion. It's really fun to see it all happening. His username is Hermit The Fraud, so go look him up and see what the heck he's doing. Some of it's really impressive, especially when he sings those dissonant Mike Patton lines. And he does a lot of other cover songs too, like Elliott Smith, Elton John, and of course, if you hear the names Elliott Smith and Elton John, who do you think of? Who would be the third artist? Well, that third artist is Megadeth. I mean, because those 3 groups tour together so often, I think, or did in the past. And he's also got some of his originals. Looking further, someone tipped me off that he also has a band called The Johnson Report. And they have a Bandcamp page with 8 albums named after various office supplies. Like literally, there's an album called Pen, another album called Highlighter, another album called Thumbtack, and there's even Stapler. And you can find that at thejohnsonreport.bandcamp.com. Either way, the guy has a great sense of humor, whoever he is. And maybe someday I can get him here on the podcast. Well, that does it for this episode. And what does that mean when people say that does it? What is that? And what is the it that it did? We may never know. But anyway, I'm legally required to thank my $50 and up Patreon patrons, my archmages, Chewbode, and Hank Howard III. To join them in supporting this podcast, as well as my other creative projects, head over to patreon.com/CarlKing and pledge $1 a month or $5 a month for various levels of access. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next week, Mulchians. Good night.